In terms of the latest here, the Israeli military mistakenly says it killed 3 hostages during its campaign in Gaza. They were misidentified as a threat. This is Yotam Haim, just 28, Sama Talalka, 22, and Alon Shamriz, 26. They were shot by troops operating in northern Gaza. Over 100 hostages remain in captivity. The IDF actually came out very quickly to say the incident was under investigation and expressed their condolences. Now, hundreds of people have gathered in central Tel Aviv following the announcement and marched on an IDF military base in the city, calling on the government to secure a deal for the release of the remaining hostages. Stella, I know you feel very passionately about this. This is carrying on. We've got something like 1.52 million people moving south. We've obviously got the Israeli forces continuing in their military operation at the moment with backing from the West. How do you see this unfolding now? Is there still Western resolve behind them?
So the thing is, David, you have people moving to the south. They've been told to move to the south, and now we know that Israel is also bombing the south. So nowhere is safe. You have reports from coming out of Gaza of journalists constantly dying, their families dying, being bombed by Israel. You have reports of more bombs being dropped on some days in Gaza than in a whole week during the Afghanistan war. And you have Western allies of Israel, instead of being a good friend and advising Israel on what's going to happen in the future. So this does mean that Netanyahu has to step back, because politically there is no appetite for his leadership right now, and he's blocking any actual solutions. So Netanyahu doesn't want to see Fatah going anywhere near control of Gaza. He doesn't want to allow the Palestinian Authority to control Gaza. His plan for what's going to happen to Gaza is clearly for Israel to occupy the territory. And in my opinion, he's trying to do a land grab as well. He does want to grab as much land as possible.
So this then speaks to these comments made by the Israeli ambassador, which I think are hugely significant. And actually, I was very shocked when I heard that, because we've been talking in the West about a two-state solution for a long time. The UK's policy is a two-state solution. It seems the right thing to me that you allow people to coexist in peace together. And something has to give. No two-state solution, she said. No Palestinian state. We live here. This is our country, the historical state of our ancestors. We will never allow a state to be established between the Jordan and the sea. And that mirrors that chant, of course, from the river to the sea. Now, that was set out, the two-state solution, in the Oslo Accords in the 1990s. Two states living side by side. The original idea was the West Bank and Gaza would form Palestine. And the US backing is predicated on that two-state solution. So by saying that, it flies in the face of 40 years of policy by the United States. I was surprised.
Yeah, it does seem an interesting line to take, and one has to obviously assume that she is speaking on behalf of the government, and that is somewhat concerning. But it does speak to something which I think has been avoided in terms of the discourse, especially in the West, so far in this conflict, which is, what are we looking at as the end point here? Because, you know, we can debate how we get to this end point, but we're not having a proper discussion about whether, number one, whether a two-state solution is the right idea. I think it personally is, and it's what I think everyone would, or most people would like to see happen. But then we have to really grapple with the fact, is that realistic? And that's a tough conversation to have. It's really hard, but it's one that we really need to begin having.
But wouldn't you have thought that Netanyahu in the US or in the UK would have sat down and said, what is the end point before we continue to help you?
They might have had those conversations in private, but I think we've seen with how toxic these debates become very quickly in public. There's a lot of strong feeling on both sides, and it might not actually be that productive at the moment
to be talking about Renee.
Everything that you have just said, you have said without mentioning Palestine or Israel once. You've said the West, you've said the US.
Yes.
You haven't said what Palestine or the US wants. And let's face it...
No, the US, Palestine
or Israel wants. And let's face it,
what does Israel want?
Over the last 40 years, over the last 40 years, Palestine has never accepted a two-state solution. As John
but always for very good reasons. Always for very good reasons, because Israel has always been blocking any...
Let Dr. Renee finish.
Okay, the two-state solution which has been proposed has been rejected by Hamas 7 times.
Indeed.
They have never accepted it. We didn't go to Zelensky when Russia invaded them and said, you know what, you should just put down your guns, because we need peace. We didn't do that.
So what's
Israel
the end point?
is the only... Israel have to be allowed to decide their own fate. And
What is the
decide,
end point, Doctor?
Israel have to be able to defend themselves and do it as they see fit.
But this comes back to Noah's point. What's the end point? Because there has to be...
So Israel have said the end point is the destruction of Hamas.
Right. So
Which for them
is that
means the
then
destruction of Gaza. They've already, over half of the infrastructure in Gaza has been ruined.
Does that change the way that people in the West feel about this? If it
I
is
think it does change.
You
The
see,
thing
I
is-
think it does.
The thing is, what really impresses me, David, is how people will talk about these comments made by the Israeli ambassador as if it's the first time that we are hearing that the Israeli government and Israeli politicians do not support a two-state solution, when we know for a fact they haven't even been trying to hide it over all of these years, that they don't want a two-state solution. The best solution for them, the best solution for the Israeli government has and always has been, their policy has been to try and divide the Palestinians, try and divide the West, and always have the excuse the Palestinians are too dangerous.
Hamas has
You
been to
cannot
wipe them off
trust
the map as
them.
Well, so
Yes. That's
Renee's point is very valid, which is that actually Hamas doesn't want a two-state solution, does it?
And Hamas have said, the leaderships, very recently, within the last 2 weeks, that they will repeat the massacre again and again.
And not only that, but targeting Jews in Europe as
Yes.
well. So that is very clear. So how do you can't negotiate with terrorists?
I think the solution here might be, at least in the short to medium term, and I've seen this mooted, I think it was Jordan Osman and Ed Balls that were talking about it, was potentially a protectorate-style system just for the time being.
How would that work?
Where you can remove Hamas from government whilst getting other, Middle Eastern nations to kind of step in and try and help.
The other Middle Eastern nations don't want to do that. And frankly, you cannot get buy-in from Palestinians for that. The problem here is that Israel doesn't want to allow and hasn't wanted to allow for a very long time democracy to exist in Palestine. They've done this for decades.
So
One at
a time.
So the most democratic government in the Middle East, the only democratic government in the Middle East where gays and straight people live side by side and are happy, do not want democracy in a country where they're not allowed to have a democracy by the people who are in charge.
But how do you explain the fact that they have been they suppressed the opposition to Hamas when it first existed?
Allegedly.
There is evidence for that. There is evidence by government officials from Israel going decades back.
Let's just go back.
The whole time there is I'm sure there is concrete evidence that there have been Israeli politicians saying that it is to their benefit that Hamas is the one who wins the elections, so that the West cannot support Palestine. There is evidence. They have supported and encouraged Hamas.
Noah.
Yeah, what is the solution then?
That's where I'm going.
Netanyahu needs to back down. Netanyahu needs to back down. He needs to leave. He's had his time.
And Hamas?
The Biden administration needs to negotiate with the Israeli government and to allow for democratic representation in Palestine.
Oh, what do they do with
Hamas?
Hamas? Let's just talk about Hamas in that, please.
Yeah, well,
they don't want a two-state solution. That's the problem.
So what do you have
you will have to accept that there will be political representation. Right now, there will be political representation.
Let's just go back and look at the geopolitics, because this is important, because Israel in 2000 did offer Gaza and 73% of the West Bank, which was rejected by Arafat. In 2005, Israel withdrew from Gaza, as we know, and removed Jewish families as well. There was a blockade imposed at that point. Back in 2008, Israel then offered 94% of the West Bank and additional land adjacent to Gaza. Isn't this an intractable problem? Because actually, even though the US, the UK, Western allies say a two-state solution is the sensible solution, the other parties, both parties,
all the while they are continuing to support settlers. They are continuing to support them both economically and militarily.
Let me just get Noah to answer this. I'm just trying to be the good referee here. Isn't that the problem?
That is the fundamental problem, is that we always talk about this period in the last century especially, where we in the West kind of looked at other parts of the world where we know how to fix your problems. And we've done that again.
That's a really interesting point.
And we don't recognise that we're doing the same thing once again. And look, again, we can debate whether we still think a two-state solution is the right thing. It doesn't mean that we think it's the wrong thing. but we are just repeating the same thing as we've done over
the problem, the difference here, Noah, is that Israel is trying to expand its borders. It's been trying to do that for a long time.
But Hamas is trying to wipe them off the map.
Can I just come in here?
Yes.
Can I just come in here? The problem here is there was a ceasefire and people were living side by side, and Hamas decided to undertake a massacre on the 7th of October where they sent a very strong message. I'm going to finish what I'm going to say, Stella. They sent a very strong message to the Jewish people. They burnt bodies. Do you know the last time Jewish bodies were burnt, Stella? It was in the Holocaust.
Oh, that's a strong argument.
Yes, it is a strong argument.
Such a strong argument.
Right, let me finish. They sent a message where they cut off genitals, they burned bodies.
I think that's enough for the...
But it's true.
But it's breakfast, Renee, it's breakfast.
And they sent a message to the Jewish people when they then said, we're going to do this to you time and time again until you don't exist. The solution that you've just suggested, you cannot even tell us how you can stop Hamas from doing that again.
Okay, why are they not allowing Fatah then? Why is Israel blocking Fatah? It's not Hamas. They are also blocking Fatah from
Hamas have 139 hostages still.
Fatah.
Okay, so we're just arguing over different points. Maybe it is an intractable problem. I don't think we're going to solve it.
Let's keep them all then.
Well, no, I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying there needs to be international effort here. But it's gone on for a very long time, and there are civilians caught on both sides of this, and I'm just very mindful of that.